Welcome back to Switch to Linux. So today we're going to be doing just a little bit of computer surgery. We are going to be doing a brief tutorial on using Clonezilla to make a duplicate of a hard drive. So I have torn apart my computer that is just off screen here, and I took out the brain, or I don't know, whatever you'd call the hard drive. This is the hard drive that has been running my Linux Mint KDE system. And the problem is it's slow. It's a very slow drive. And I feel that it is probably interfering with my capacity to enjoy KDE as much as I could. That computer does get very, very slow throughout the day. It's frequently is very slow to respond. Much the same way as if you're running a live key on a USB 2 drive versus USB 3 drive. So I have laying around here this hard drive, which is not a whole lot better, to be honest, but I think it is going to give me a little bit of performance. This was a hard drive out of an old Vista. In fact, this still has the stock Vista on it. This is from the computer that I bought, I don't know, like 9 years ago as a professor. And, I took it out. I took this hard drive out of my computer that's my media center. I put an SSD in there, and I'm like, yeah, I'll keep that Vista around in case I need it. It's like, gets to me, like, what do I need a copy of Vista laying around for one computer that's dedicated to something else? So I'm just going to utilize this hard drive. I'm not sure if I'm going to get a whole lot better performance. I can tell you that this is a Seagate ST31202113AS. It is a SATA 3.0 with 8 megabyte cache, and it's a 120 gigabyte drive. I do not know how old this is because there's no manufacturer date listed, at least not one I found. Let me look at all the sides again. I do know that the owner's guide, I pulled up on the Windows computer behind me, the owner's guide of this dates back to like 2006. So presumably the drive is from somewhere around there. I'm just trying to see if I can see any final dates anywhere. I was not able to find any. But regardless, it was probably a really good drive in the day. It probably has some life out of it, so I'm going to use it just as an offline storage disk. Store distros or backup copies of videos or things like that. This guy here is a Western Digital WD2500BEKT. It is a 250 gigabyte drive. It is also a SATA 3.0. This one does have 16 megabytes of cache, however, and they are both the same spin speed. Hi, Kitty. Kitty, say hi. Okay. They are both 7200 drives. Being as that this one is twice the size, and this one has a manufacturer date listed of June 2008. So still an old drive, but I think that 2006 to 2008, back in that period of time, is probably a huge difference in drive performance if you've followed drives from that period of time. So what we're going to be using here is Clonezilla, which I have placed on this drive here. And what I'm going to do here is pull up the Clonezilla website. I forgot to do that prior to that, and this is very difficult with this cat hanging around here. Hey, buddy, can you, yeah, go over here. I'm going to kick the kitty out. I'm actually kicking the cat out of a video. That's, totally unheard of. But, yeah, oh, well. Alright, okay. So, I'm kind of doing this kind of clumsily here. So Clonezilla is a Linux distro that is specifically designed to make clones of hard drives. So essentially, we're going to take this guy, which was my KDE system, we are going to clone it onto this guy, which will be the same system, and it should work perfectly the same. I have not used Clonezilla prior to today, so what I did as my test is I took my Ubuntu computer, which is on this guy here, and I did successfully clone it onto this drive here. No, not that drive. Some drive. Oh, it's still in the computer. And that worked perfectly fine. And so what we're going to do is just walk you through how to make a copy of the hard drive. So how would you make a copy? Well, let's start with why you'd make a copy. Well, if you notice that your hard drive is starting to fail, downloading a quick Linux distro, booting the computer into it, as long as you have enough ports and cables available to make it work, you can take a computer that is on the verge of dying, make a complete copy onto a brand new hard drive, and there you go, have the same thing. Another application with SSDs coming down in price and it being a very fast system, you can decide if you want an SSD, and I could literally take this Windows computer that's behind me, and if I say, well, I want to put a better drive in there because the thing's like, I don't know, 8 years old at this point, 8 or 9 years old, I forget how old that thing is. But I could say, well, the drive could be getting old by this point in time, so let's take a copy of the drive and make a copy of it, make a mirror of it onto an SSD, and I could run the computer on an SSD. It'd probably greatly boost performance. You could also just use it as a backup redundant copy. You know, once a month, take your hard drive out of your computer if it's very important to you and make a backup clone copy into another duplicate drive. Then if you ever do have an issue, you have a backup copy of the drive and you don't lose a whole lot. So there's a lot of applications for this type of thing. Obviously the warnings, make sure that you are paying very close attention to the drives that you're copying. You could accidentally copy your, overwrite a drive if you don't do it right. That's some of the things people say frequently. And then, of course, how you do it. This is a very easy system to use, and we'll walk through it. There is a full install version, like a Clonezilla server edition you can get. I'm running the live, and so it's like a 200-some megabyte file. And so what I'm doing here is I'm going to be running the live key. So I'm going to boot my big computer into that. This is actually one of those fun reasons I put an icy dock in this computer, because there's the operating system that's supposed to be in the computer. I'm just going to take that out. And then what we're going to do here is I'm going to boot the computer off of Clonezilla, and then I'm going to drop in the two drives, and then I'm going to make a copy of one drive into the next. So that's kind of what our status is going to be. So I'm going to stop the video here, and then we are going to come back on when we are booted into Clonezilla, or probably rather as I am booting into it. So I will be right back. So we are now set up, and I'm just booted on the computer. Now, in my case here, I did a quick test here, and it does look like I have to have both disks in and turned on for the system to be able to find them. And I think that's a limitation of my particular BIOS, which is actually a very frustrating BIOS I'm finding. If I'm plugged into the wrong, the wrong video display port, the other one will simply not turn on. And what was happening as I did my initial tests is by enabling the icy dock after the system was booted on, it was not turning on the second SATA port, and so I had to do that. That may happen on your system, it may not. In my case, I had to turn them on. I went into the mashed the F12 key until I got the boot menu. I think some HPs have the boot menu on the F9 for some reason, but F12 to get to the boot menu, and then I picked the UEFI USB drive, which was my Clonezilla. So here I'm going to pick whichever version, like whatever VGA setting, etc. that I want. I'm just going to pick the 1024 by 768 setting. And then this is going to load the system into Clonezilla. So we'll have basically like a dialog box startup. It's not going to be anything fancy or dancy or awesome or anything. I am putting both of these drives on SATA 3.0 ports, and so we should have the maximum write speed available to these limited mechanical disks. First, we have to choose our language. We're going with English, and then don't touch the key map. And then down here, this is the menu where we can either start the program or we can enter the command line prompt. So we're going to go ahead and start Clonezilla. And the cat's tail was actually in the fan there for a second. So here we have the option to work with device images, ISO images, whatnot. Or we can work directly from disk to disk. And so we're going to do directly from disk to disk. So we're picking the second option. And let me see if I can straighten this camera out a little bit. The good news about this new camera stand I bought is I don't have to mess with the angle of the monitor anymore. So here we have a few different options. Okay, we have a few different options here. We can go with the beginner mode, which accepts all of the default options, and this is generally going to be okay to use. Expert mode, if you want more options, more logs, or if there's anything goofy with your platform, you might want to choose that. But I'd probably start with a beginner if you don't have a reason otherwise. Or, of course, we can exit back to the command line. Okay. Sorry, I have a cat bothering me, and my concern with her sitting down here, I have computers open, and she already put her fan in her tail in the fan once. So, ouch. I know he's a cool cat, but, you know, getting inside the processor fans is not cool. So here we have the option to do local disks or remote disks or local or remote partitions. So we're going to do local disk to local disk. Now, this is the part where most people will start getting really nervous. Which disk is which? We have to decide which one, which disk is going where, which is the target, which is the source. Now, in my case right here, this is wicked easy because I already know what the drives are. One's a Western Digital, one's a Seagate, one's 250, one's 120, and if you do not have, if you're basically copying this onto various, onto multiple different, like if you bought the same hard drive twice, then what you need to look at is the very last part over here, and I'll use my finger here. It's the ghost hand. Blah. Okay. The last part there is actually going to be the serial number of the drive. I believe that's the serial number of the drive. I'll know that for sure when I take the drive out. I'm not going to do that right now. So you'd want to take note of your serial numbers. In my case here, this is easy because I know that the smaller drive is the one with my KDE install. So the first is it's asking us which disk is the source. This is where we're copying the information from. So highlight the second disk in this case, which is the 120 gigabyte one. I'm going to push OK. And then it removes that from the list and says, where is the target disk? This is where we're going to write everything. Okay, and then here, are we going to skip checking, repairing source file, or interactively check and repair, or auto, which is basically repair source files before. In my case, I'm just going to skip checking and repairing anything and just go. And then choose reboot or shut down. What we're going to do here is just do this option, which is going to give us a shutdown reboot option. This guy gives us the ability to reboot right afterwards. And this one here is the shutdown right afterwards. So we're just going to pick with the first one. If you were doing this overnight, hit the shutdown option. It'll shut the system down after you're done. Push OK. Now it's going to ask you way too many times if you are sure. So hit yes. Gathering information. Okay, so we'll just verify everything here. The text is yellow. So it says machine to be filled by OEM. Let's see, SDA, SDA1, SDA2. Okay, so this is this disk here. Are you sure you want to overwrite? Yes. And then it's going to ask again, yes. Okay, so warning, 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 warning. Okay, everything will be lost. Everything will be gone. Do you want to clone the bootloader? The answer is yes. I do want to clone the bootloader as well because one of them is a Windows bootloader and the other is a Linux bootloader to get me into the Linux system. So here it's going to walk us through a lot of different settings. It's going to jump back and forth between some basic command line stuff here and between a screen like this. So it's calculating. So once we got to this part here, you can see over here it gives us an elapse in remaining. We can probably estimate it might take about twice what that number is for right now. At least that's what it did on the USB ports. Now these guys here are transferring data quite a bit faster than the other ones, although there is quite a bit more data to transfer. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to turn off the camera as this runs. This is going to take anywhere between 8 and 20 minutes. and then I'll turn it back on, and then what we're going to see is we'll get another step after this. It'll show up over here, and it looks like nothing's happening. That will take maybe another 5 to 10 minutes. So we're going to come back on after this is doing its thing here, and we'll check the progress then. Well, that went through and synced a whole lot faster than the previous one. My last one, that section there said syncing, that just took off out of the screen. It took about 10 minutes, and this just took like 3 seconds. All right, yes, we're able to chroot the restored OS partition, trying to use grub. All right, so it's basically just doing some testing. So it says it finished, and nothing seemed to go wrong there. So we're going to come up here. It's going to power off the system, and we're going to turn off the video, and I'm going to reassemble the computer here, and then we'll see if the drive works. Okay, so we have that in there. Let's go ahead and power on. And then I have to hit my F12 key so I can select my bootloader, because this wants to boot into Windows 8 by default. Okay, so down here, SATA 2 is the Western Digital hard drive. I did not test this prior to running the video, so let's see what happens. Okay, it looks like we're booting in. Move that out of the way for a second. So it does look like it's taking just about a similar amount of time as it usually does to boot up. It's hard to say exactly for sure, because this thing always takes a long time to boot up. Should have my login screen. And login screen, and now let's see how this goes here. Oops, I gotta fix this here. Let's see. So far so good. Like I said, I'm not sure if I'm going to get any real system performance out of this. If this doesn't work, maybe I'll just go and break down and buy a new SSD or something. It's not exactly like I paid any money for this system. It's just something I happen to have in place. All right, so now we are set up. Let's just do a couple little tests here. Let's see what happens if I load things up. So everything does seem to be working correctly. Let me push this button on the Android phone, see if it pairs correctly. So good, it paired correctly with that. So here's my nice new setup, and I'll be doing another video in a couple days here to see, basically show everybody how I put this system together. So far everything seems to be working right. I'm going to run on this for a few days, see if it works well, and if not, I'll probably just throw the other one in there, because if I do get an SSD, it's going to be a small one. It'd be a few weeks before I do that anyway. And so let's just see how long it takes to shut down. Usually right there, that's way faster, although, albeit the system usually is on a lot more. Clean me. Yeah, my monitor's really dirty. I have to wash that off. All right, so anyway, that worked perfectly fine. Actually, total time for that was probably only like 10 minutes to clone that drive. And so, if this does not need to be some huge hassle to get the system working. You just, let me turn that around there. Woohoo. All right. Whoa, come back this way. All right, so this isn't some big hassle. It was very nice, very quick to get the drive working right. And now I just have to put the bottom on the computer case and slide everything back into place and do a little final tidying up, cleanup here. But other than that, everything seems to be working just fine. The clone was very successful. It took only a few minutes. And so if you happen to need to clone a hard drive or, make a backup of a hard drive or something, Clonezilla, that's the way to do it with Linux. So this has been Tom, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.